The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and welcome to our webcast on data management and governance programs must start with enterprise standards and procedures. With me in the webcast is Marcy Barton-Goodwin, founder and CEO of Access Software Designs. Marcy has partnered with Sandhill to expand our enterprise modeling set of standards 2.0 in a relationship that has gotten stronger over the years as we've been able to leverage our joint knowledge and expertise to the point where we've seen EM-SOS 2.0 as essential to any data management and data governance program.
Right. Oh, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
And in addition to myself, Robert Lutton, your moderator, we have Jeff Harris, Sandhill Consultants, Senior Architect, who is one of our key resources on EM-SOS 2.0 projects.
Good day, everybody. Hope you enjoy this presentation and get a lot of good value out of it.
Certainly, we're all looking forward to that, Jeff. I think we've, if I do say so ourselves, we've put a good presentation together. On our call today, we're going to discuss the importance, actually the criticality of enterprise standards and procedures as a foundation for any data management and or data governance program. So the numbers are in. When we were building this presentation, we came across this picture that really captured the issue at heart. We really see this as one of the critical issues organizations are dealing with, inconsistent data. You will, of course, note that the image does not match the words. In a recent global data management, data quality report from Experian, they noticed that 75% of the organizations surveyed believed inaccurate data is undermining their ability to provide excellent customer experience, as well as affecting their business making decisions. Some of the most common data errors are 50% of the data is redundant, 37% of the data is inconsistent, and over 50% is related to human error. Looking at the picture, this is part of the problem. Our mission is to get this trend to go lower, not higher. In our big picture, the way we see it, we want to move from data confusion to data clarity. It is our intent to show you how we can help organizations achieve the following. We want to reduce rework and increase efficiency of people using the data. We want to be able to reduce the amount of untrustworthy data, making it trustworthy, something that every organization wants to achieve. We want to move away from line of business or siloed data standards to enterprise standards, best practices, and workflows across the board. In our goal, moving from data confusion to data clarity, we look at three critical aspects. First, we're going to show how organizations can provide for an understanding and trusting of the data. Second, we believe that without enterprise-wide standards, best practices, workflow, forms, reports, and the whole aspect that we're going to show you, that without these critical elements, organizations will not achieve the complete data governance that they're looking for. Finally, our third point is a pretty interesting point. It's critical for attendees to understand that what we're going to show you is that something you could do yourself internally, assuming you have the in-house resources and expertise. Or you could jumpstart your project by buying a solution that will get you there quicker than doing it in-house. We will review the options of build versus buy and what Sandhill has to offer. Delving into our first key point, understanding and trusting where your data comes from and having an appropriate enterprise-wide data standards, which should also include an improved data model lifecycle and procedures which are critical to achieving data consistency across the enterprise. We see it as essential that they must be easy to access, easy to use, and easy to manage. In speaking with our clients, everyone has some standards. They have name entities, entity naming for attributes and tables, and in most organizations they have some of these key standards documented. However, what we've seen is an inconsistency across the enterprise, not only in how these standards are documented, but also how they're stored, i.e. they may not be easy to access. And as we dig further, we uncover that that they have limited standards, no data model cycles, data model life cycles, limited procedures, and little, if not no ability to provide tool automation of the standards that they may have. Some of the clients who have standards have them in Word and Excel, and they differ from one line of business to another line of business. They're difficult to access, update, and not fully documented with today's operations. Issues like these can really affect whether or not users can use the standards. Our belief is that without the full control of enterprise modeling standards framework that is easy to access, use, and manage, it'll make it very difficult for your standards to be adopted by agile teams or other data folks, even if they want to. This also affects enforcement and everything down the road, including your data management, data governance, data quality programs. What we're going to show you is a very easy approach for the organization to adopt an entire enterprise modeling standards framework. Our second key point, and by the way, we love the pitch here. Our second key point is the foundation for data governance. Several folks in this call are starting or in the middle of implementing a data governance initiative. In our opinion, you can't have a complete data governance program unless you're considering it from the enterprise perspective. It has to be global. It has to involve all the lines of businesses. We see the need for a complete data model lifecycle, which will document how objects get approved for enterprise reuse. Organizations need to develop repeatable processes and document these workflows. Organizations need a definition on how to define definitions, guidelines that will help you not only achieve data consistency, but also guidance and/or enforcement of your data standards via your modeling solution. For a complete data governance program, all these aspects need to be documented, approved, and most importantly, followed by internal and external resources. All of this has to happen for you to have complete control of your data. You will see how leveraging Sandhill's Enterprise Modeling Standards framework can reduce unwanted data redundancy in the organization. The final critical aspect that we'd like to review with you before I pass it over to Jeff is the build versus buy scenario. All the critical components we're going to show you can build. In fact, we often get the question, well, I have standards, and yes, hopefully you should have some form of standards for entity name, attribute names, etc. However, if you don't have the full data model lifecycle, all the procedures, the forms, the reports, and the workflow, then you are missing critical aspects of an enterprise modeling standards framework, which forms the foundation for an organization's data management, data governance program. Sandhill has an approach where we can provide pre-built standards, procedures, and workflow, which means you have a much faster time for implementation. We also leverage automation of standards, domains, and class words in data modeling tools, which allows for the enforcement of standards and workflow. We've developed all of this to increase automation, which is a key aspect from an auditability point of view. When you look at building an in-house enterprise modeling standards framework, one of the first items you have to do is reallocate in-house resources from other projects. Most organizations tell us that they don't have the time nor the appropriate skills needed, so allocating critical resources, while important, affects other projects, which can decrease overall productivity. When it comes to building enterprise modeling standards framework, organizations have told us to build what we provide can take them 18 to 24 months and 2 to 4 resources. This equates to much longer time frame and higher costs than a buy solution. We offer a solution to these needs. Introducing Enterprise Modeling Standards 2.0. EMS 2.0 is our enhanced set of unique modeling standards framework that helps companies quickly implement an effective customized enterprise modeling infrastructure. We provide a jumpstart of over 36 critical standard procedures and templates and forms, reports, life cycles, and diagrams, as well as automated workflow processes. We provide this framework which can be then customized to your specific needs in a very short period of time. Adopting our Enterprise Modeling Standards framework saves you time, money, and effort as you customize rather than create from scratch. We also map to both the DIMBOK 2.0 that's coming out and the CMMI-DMM framework, which can move organizations to a higher level of data maturity. We'll also show you how easy you can customize content in place, making it easy to access, use, and manage with, of course, the appropriate authority. So with this, I'm going to ask Jeff to present a walkthrough and a demonstration of EM-SOS 2.0. Jeff.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. Thanks for the introduction. And as you sort of implied, we're going to go through a quick walkthrough of the EM-SOS 2.0 product. And we're going to see all the various aspects behind it and how it actually works. Then we're going to drill into a couple of demos, and we're going to actually see certain aspects actually working in a real-life scenario. So before we get into the EM-SOS, I thought I'd just quickly give you a helicopter overview of the tool and the actual layout that we've got of the EM-SOS 2.0. And typically, it's rolled out using something like SharePoint. So it's rolled out using a web browser interaction. So typical web browser interaction with the SharePoint capability, you can manage the security that you have of your users. So the relevant users can log into your standards, and you can control who can get access to it or not. So very powerful using and leveraging the SharePoint capability. The next thing we've got is what I like to refer to as the breadcrumbs. So whenever we've worked in EM-SOS and we've navigated our way through various different particular standards, procedures, I like to be able to see where I am and to be able to see the breakup of the location I've got to, and hence the reason why we use this breadcrumb capability, to be able to see where we've come to and where we're going to. So gives you that navigation capability. Next is we've got a menu bar at the top. The menu bar pretty much at the moment is EM-SOS and our workflow engine. But for your implementation, we can customize it to be able to hook in other aspects and to introduce other type of standards that you want to include in the EM-SOS tool set. So it is a customizable menu bar. Moving on from that is probably the most important area that I like to always talk about is the navigation bar. It's like the index, your home base, where you have a list of all the things that you want to be able to navigate to. So as you can see, it can expand. You can collapse various levels, but it's a good way of being able to quickly find and identify the standards, the procedures, the forms, whatever you need to work with to be able to get yourself to being able to understand your data modeling environment. So the navigation bar is a quick, easy tool to see your way around. The next one is the search capability. Within EM-SOS, we've got an advanced search capability, which relies on a keyword query language syntax. So in short, that's the long term for very much of a Google-like type of search. So it is an intelligent search capability that we can leverage. We also have, as you'll notice from the actual slide I'm showing you, is you'll notice that we've got a modify button. Now, this modify button is pretty much only available to anybody who is an administrator of the environment. So depending on the security level that you've been allocated via the SharePoint environment, whether you're an administrator or you're a normal consumer of the EM-SOS, you will then be defined whether you can actually modify. Now, what's important about this is the aspect of while you're in the tool, you can actually go into the modify mode to be able to modify any of the pages, which is representative of your standards, your procedures, etc. But it also gives you the ability to be able to use template-based standards and procedures. So when you see any of the standards or templates, standards or procedures, it's all laid out in a very unique, standard way. And we will see a bit more about that once we get a bit deeper into our standards. So just to let you know that we've got this capability to modify in the tool. The last section I want to deal with on this particular slide is just to show you the concept that as much as we're working in all of these various different standards and procedures, they are rich text pages that we were using. So that means we can include graphics, we can even incorporate PDF documents, and also very critical to understanding how we want it rolled out is it's even mobile device ready. So if you want to pull it up on an iPad or your smartphone, you can be able to even get to the standards and understand and quickly navigate that while you're sitting in a meeting, and to be able to see how it's relevant to the particular environment that you're working with. So taking that one step further, we're going to now drill into the next step down in the actual walkthrough that we're doing. And we're actually going to go to the data model lifecycle. Now, we include in the EM-SOS a lot of content that's already been delivered that you'll be able to leverage. This particular content is just about the top level of the data modeling lifecycle. And as you can see from it, it is a PDF document. So we've included the PDF document to show you how we can actually include documents within the scope of the EM-SOS. So we've pulled in this particular data modeling lifecycle, and it sort of explains the whole process. We're not going to go too much into the depths of what's actually shown on this particular slide. I want to show you the concepts and the principles of the tool, and likewise, when we get to the detail section of the DMLC, we've got a detail level. You can go to whatever level you want it to be, but this is all content that comes pre-built and packaged with EM-SOS. The next one I want to jump towards is our standards section. In our standards section, we provide a whole pre-packaged set of standards. Now, as I mentioned earlier, they all can be customized. So once we actually go into a project with you, we'll come and help you and understand how your standards can be incorporated into EM-SOS. Or if you don't have a particular standard for that area, we can actually leverage the information of the existing standard we've got and then make it or customize it to your specific requirements. So using the modification capability, it's quite easy to roll out and do the changes to the particular standards or procedures, and to make it your own version of EM-SOS. We're going to quickly jump into the logical data modeling object naming standard. And when I spoke earlier on about having it all based on a template approach, the first part of our template is the purpose. The purpose gives you that high-level overview, what this particular screen you're looking at, what the standard is about, or what the procedure or form or whatever we're dealing with is about. To me, it's an executive summary so that you can actually see the relevance of what you're doing, how you're doing it. And as you can see, the pre-built incorporated standard, the explanation given there gives you a good feel for what you're going to get in the rest of the document. The next section is the responsibility section. This talks about who is responsible for managing and updating this particular standard or procedure. So if you've got any questions about it, you know who you need to go and speak to. It can be role-based or a particular individual or an organization. As you can see, we can customize the way it actually represents your requirements. And it allows any consumer of EM-SOS to know who to speak to. The next section is the description section. This is where I see the meat of the standards, the procedure or whatever. And it's the area where we actually define what is going to be the standard for your organization. So let's just quickly scroll down and go to a particular standard I want to talk about. And I'm going to actually select this entity standard. And in the entity standard, or any of the standards in this template, you've got the section heading, which explains what this standard or this object that we're dealing with. And an entity is an object in the data modeling world. So we're talking about the entity object, and it gives you a quick explanation of what it really is. And it will then give you the standard section. The standard section talks about, and when we're dealing with something like an entity, the case that you'll represent it in your models, the verb language, so it's singular noun. You've got to use English business names, the length, abbreviation, so you can understand what your standard is. So these are all the things that we've thought about and we've packaged together on how we actually define what a standard is for a particular entity. And once you actually understand the actual standard, we have a section which is your example section, which gives you an example of what an entity name should look like. So client benefit plan, organization, population group, these are examples of what an entity should look like. So let's just scroll down a little bit further and we get to the bottom of this particular standard document. And we will notice that we have incorporated a section called tips. Now, tips can give you advice on how to use the standard in your environment, how to leverage it, how to benefit from it, etc. But as an example there, you can see is it talks about using the Irwin template. So it helps the users of your EM-SOS environment to be able to make use of these standards. Following from that, we've got what we call the revision history. Revision history is actually quite powerful because it gives us the ability to be able to track all of our changes. So it's our auditing capability of our standards. So it gives you the audit log of any changes that have occurred to your standard or procedure or form or whatever you are dealing with. But straight away you can see from there the actual revision number, when it was changed, who authored it, who approved it, and there's a comment section as well to be able to see what was changed. So through that, we've got the audit capability. Now, from there, we've also got what we call our related topic section. This is anything that's related to the particular document you got in focus at the time. So if we're dealing like this particular standard, we're working with the logical data modeling object naming standard, we might want to refer to the class word domain data type list, etc. So these are all hyperlinks that will jump us to different sections in your EM-SOS environment to be able to give you that value add of information that you're looking for. So it's a good way to be able to navigate your way through from one level to the next very quickly, understanding what is related to the topic you are reading about. So let's just quickly move on to the data object definition section. And I'm just scrolling through to just quickly show you what the standard can look like. And the most important thing that I wanted to highlight is the ability to incorporate graphics. So as you've seen through this particular standard, we've got graphics shown in our particular standard. We've also got the ability to have hyperlinks embedded into the actual document as well. We've seen the use of the hyperlinks through the related topics, but you can actually embed the hyperlinks to other documents or pages or standards, procedures from within your actual text as well. So it is a full HTML5 capable website using SharePoint to be able to give you that rich capability of being able to present your standards to your consumers of your standards. I'm going to jump into another section here, which is our class word and domain list. And just to show you first off that we can use tables in this environment, but also how does this relate to our working environment in Irwin? So let's take the first particular line there. We've got that code, which is abbreviation CD. We got a logical data type for it, is character, the definition, the data type, etc. So we got a lot of information relating to that class word that we are showing there. But when we work in Irwin, we then equate this into our Irwin environment using our templates. So by leveraging the template capability in Irwin, we can then actually incorporate these standards and this particular class word, as we've seen here, as a domain in our template, which is then used in our Irwin data models as we work forward. So by using the EM-SOS, we actually pushing this information or being able to leverage this information via the templates in our Irwin environment, and we can reuse it, noting that like the definition is being carried forward, all the information that's been inherited from our template. Another angle on that, let's have a look at the attribute standard. And once again, we've got the attribute standard, we've got the information about the case, the singular noun, the length, etc. And all the information that we've got in the EM-SOS is now being incorporated in our templates and is being rolled out into our data models. So as you can see in this example here, how we've actually leveraged that information and been able to push it into all the various aspects in the Irwin environment by using the template to be able to roll it out effectively to your working environment. Just to take us one step further through our walkthrough at the moment is we've got a section on procedures, and specifically let's have a look at a procedure. It's got very much the same look and feel that we've seen in the standards. So we've got the purpose, responsibility, description. We'll have the tips and the version history information, all the same, the related topics. But what I want to show you quickly on the left-hand side, as you can see by what I've actually highlighted in the red square, is all the various different procedures that we've got. So we've got like add model source, we've got all the issue resolution, model backup, change controls, how to synchronize your models, etc. So we've got all these procedures that we've already thought out and actually done and incorporated into the vanilla brand EM-SOS 2.0 that will be the starting block for your standards. So as Robert sort of raised, you can build it yourself, but there's a lot of things you need to think of. And we've gone through that procedure or process of identifying all of these key elements that you need to look at, how to incorporate them in your standards, how to incorporate them in your procedures. So just moving forward a little bit, we've also got the forms. So within our forms, you've got a whole lot of forms that you can actually make use of and leverage. So if you've got a change control form, this is the vanilla brand version. Obviously, we can customize it, use it as effectively as you want, print it effectively, whatever you want to, however you want to implement all of these forms in your environment. But also noticing the forms that we got included in the vanilla brand EM-SOS 2.0. Moving on from that, we've got also some of the metrics reports. Now, our metrics reports talk a lot about the level of compliance of a particular model. And we use a lot of these reports to be able to see, have we actually complied to all of our standards? What have we done with our model? Has it been rolled out effectively? And you can sort of see from the pages I'm showing quickly, it tells you how to make use of these reports. So we will see a little bit more about the reports when I actually get into the demo section. But as you can see there's a whole explanation how to leverage these reports and use them in your environment. Next I wanted to go to was the glossary. Now, if you remember, we spoke about the code and the abbreviation of CD a little bit earlier. This is our list of abbreviations. Anybody who's familiar with the older versions of Irwin that had the NSM files, This is a typical NSM file. The newer versions of Irwin, this is incorporated in your Irwin model as a naming standard. So by using this, this is your master for managing all of your glossary terms. One step further, we've got our templates. Now, templates is how we actually roll out our standards in an Irwin environment. But for somebody who's new to your modeling environment, this is a good place for them to come and actually understand the procedures that they need to adopt and use in your environment. And it talks to them how to actually roll out a new model and leverage these standards using the templates. So this tells you how to make use of the templates. But we will see it in a demo quickly on how quickly and easy it is to actually make use of these standards via the templates. One of the other things that you'll notice also is EM-SOS is actually written for both Irwin, Power Designer, and also EOS Studio. So we can actually roll it out to any particular data modeling tool set that you may have. It's not bound strictly to any data modeling tool, but obviously a lot of these pages are slightly different for the different tools. So the way you actually roll out your standards gets implemented slightly differently. So these pages then change according to the various tool set that you're using. So let's have a look at a particular demonstration. And the one thing I haven't really spoken much about up to now was the workflow, because I actually wanted to show you the workflow capability through the demo. Now, workflow is the process, and this particular workflow we're going to be talking about is the logical data model submission. So we're going to go through a process where we start off with the data model. One of the data modelers has done some data modeling, and they are going to then take the data model and go through the process of defining our models, the requirements for the model. They're going to prepare the model and actually do all of the modeling work. They're going to submit the logical data model for approval. It will then go from the data modeler down to the data architect, who will actually do a technical review on the model. And by using the technical review, he will then define whether he's happy with the changes or the particular model. Have you complied to all the standards? If he's not happy with it, the workflow capability gives you the ability to pass it back to the data modeler to go and make some changes. Or if he's happy, he will then go and say that the technical review is satisfactory and pass it on to the project manager. The project manager then can have a look at the actual data model, see what comments the data architects put in, and say, well, he approves it for the particular project. And it then goes back to the data architect, who then can publish the model and push the model out to the relevant environments to be able to be represented in the relevant ways. This is a typical workflow that we've got built in, and bear in mind that the workflow that we've got here is one of the standard workflows that we've got built in EM-SOS 2.0, but can be customized to your specific requirements. So I'm just showing you the vanilla brand version of the particular workflow so that you can get an understanding how the workflow engine can operate. So let's get into the actual demo itself. And let's get moving to the next page. So let's start off with the workflow and go and create our workflow. So by creating our workflow, we will then give the workflow a name. So the model name that we're going to be submitting, so it's our CRM logical physical model. We're then going to say a due date. So when do we have to have this particular model reviewed by? So we'll select a particular date. We'll have who the contact person is, giving the name, the email address, and a telephone number so anybody can contact you. And you will then go through, and according to the standards that you've defined, you will have this customized form where you can actually set up all the relevant options to say whether he's complied or the model has complied or not complied to particular standards. And once we've actually finished checking everything that we need to check, we can then go and save this particular submission. Now, by saving it, it hasn't been submitted yet. So if you need to go back and review your particular model, you can go back, review it by just saving it. And once you've actually finished reviewing your model again, you can come back to your workflow, open up the particular workflow, make any changes that you need to make, review anything that you are satisfied with your submission, and when you're finished, you can actually then go and actually submit this workflow, and it will start off the workflow, which will then pass it on from your data to your data architect. So let's have a look from a data architect perspective. So now I've logged in with the data architect user, and when we drill into his workflow environment, he will see that logical physical model that we submitted. And he then can go through all the information, review the compliance to our standard. So he does a technical review. If he's not happy with it, he can actually send it back to the data modeler and just say he has reviewed it and found that there was issues with it, and he submits that back to the data modeler. Now, back in the data modeler user, we can come back and review our particular workflow, noticing that he would have been given an email of all these submissions and changes. He then can go through, see what was stated by the data architect, make the changes to the model, and then reply to the data architect. And by replying back to the data architect, we then go back to understanding what the data architect sees. He goes in and reviews our workflow process. He will see the particular comment that was given by the data modeler and say, okay, he's happy. He submits the reply to the data modeler and then submits the model as being approved from a technical review perspective. You will notice that it's now gone green, so this model has gone through the technical review process. Next, we now move on to our project manager, and our project manager goes in and has a look at the workflow engine, and we will notice that the review has been completed. He can then open up the particular workflow or the model submission process. He can go through all of the particular compliance to the standard and review what the data architect said and say he can approve it and submit it. And as you'll notice, it's moving through the various phases through the workflow engine. Now we need to just go back to our data architect, who will now actually publish the model. So by going back into the workflow engine from the data architect perspective, see it's approved by the project manager, and then he can review what has been said and then publish the model, and likewise publish it to any web portal, whatever procedure you may have in your environment. And that workflow comes to an end, and the data modeler then can see that his workflow has been published and is satisfied that the model has gone through the relevant workflow process. So that's giving us a quick demonstration of the workflow engine. The next one I'm going to demonstrate is the basic metrics and reuse report. So for this, we're going to jump into an Irwin environment, and we're actually going to open up an existing model. I'm using this as-is model, which does not have any standard template applied to it, so it's not complying to our standards in our environment. And just to verify that, we're actually going to go in and see our model template is not bound to any template. So there's no template information available for this particular model. And we're going to go to our particular report, our basic metrics report. And when we open up a basic metrics report, we will notice that there is no standard template attached to this model, and hence there's no name being provided for the template name. We'll also notice the non-compliant to all of our standards. So you'll see a whole mixture of information here about whether it has definitions. So our entity has so many definitions, our attribute has so many definitions. So that's our basic metrics report. So let's actually open up a model, which is my to-be model, which is a model where I've actually implemented using our standard template. And just to go into our templates, we can actually see it's bound to a template. And it's our standard logical physical MSQL 2012 template is what we've used. So it's one of our corporate templates. And let's run that exact same report, our basic metrics report, on this particular model now. Now we can see it's actually got a template implemented. It will give us the template name so we can confirm that it's actually used the right template. We can see the entities with definitions as being compliant to our attributes with definitions, the uniqueness. So we can see how well our model is actually conformed to our standards. The next one I'm going to go to is another one of the standard reports, is the reusable objects report. And this talks to us about how many of the corporate objects we have reused. Remembering objects are referred to as entities. So how many corporate entities are we using in our environment? So we can see from this that we actually break down into several sections. The first being the total number of entities in the particular model is 6. The total number of candidate objects. Candidate objects are objects that we believe might be prospective new corporate objects. Local objects typically are objects that are not conforming to our corporate standards and are very much just specific for this particular model. So it's not something that we need in a corporate environment, but is used in this model. We've got shareable objects. These are the ones that have been shared from our corporate library of standard objects. So customers got a predefined set of information behind its sales order line. The shareable change proposed objects is objects that we've got that have actually changed in this particular model that don't conform to the standard any longer, but we want to propose a new change to our corporate standards. So this is the standard sort of reporting that we can make use of. Bearing in mind within the procedures, we've got a whole set of procedures to explain how we use these standard reports. The next one I want to move into is the standard templates usage in the Irwin environment. So how do we use this in Irwin? So first off, when we create a new model, we're going to use match template as our type, and we're going to go and select the particular template we want to match to. Now, what is important is to ensure that we preserve the template binding so that whenever we reuse it, we can always reuse that same information. Now, as you will see on the left-hand side, I've expanded out the domains, and we will see that we've got a whole lot of standard domains that we've brought in via our template, and including things like data types and definitions are coming through in that standard template. So let's have a look at the naming standards, and we can see there we've got incorporated in our template or from our template is our corporate naming standards with all of its abbreviations. And going back to that code with the abbreviation of CD, we can see how that's been used in our Irwin environment. So by using this capability, we can see how we can leverage the standards in a Irwin data modeling environment. With that, I'm going to pass you back to Robert, who will take over from here.
Thanks, Jeff. I hope that everyone that's on the WebEx will agree that EM-SOS 2.0 is unique in the marketplace. I can tell you that there's nothing like this that exists today. When it comes to enterprise modeling standards frameworks, we are taking organizations who feel like they're in the cottage industry age into the 21st century with EM-SOS 2.0. We're moving organizations from siloed standards to a cohesive enterprise modeling standards framework. Remember what we said at the beginning. It needed to be easy to access, easy to use, and easy to manage. So let me tell you briefly about a few successes that we've had recently. From our first client, that's a large manufacturing organization. Their challenge was that they told us that they needed to find consistent definitions across the enterprise. The key issues that they solved were that they improved the quality of data objects, they saw a reduction in the duplicate data definitions, and they sped up application development work. The key benefit that they realized was a substantial cost savings due to increased use of shared data objects, and they increased the understanding of the data across the enterprise. Following on with that, another success story in the health benefits sector. Their challenge was that they wanted to highlight the importance of understanding data standardization throughout the organization, both for business and IT. The key issue solved was a huge improvement in the collaboration between business and IT, as they're now all talking about the same objects, same language, and same consistent data definitions. They're now well positioned for a strong foundation for a complete data governance offering. In fact, some of the metric reports that you saw Jeff produce are assisting the clients in identifying what objects are being reused and leveraging the objects in their data model lifecycle, which was critical in one of their data governance audits. They've increased responsiveness to their customers' needs and market changes. Their benefits is that customers achieved increased consistency in the data design process across various operating business units. We also have seen common questions come up time and time again, and we wanted to just mention a few so that way we can tell you what we've seen and customers have told us. We've had so clients have told us that they've got some standards in Word and Excel, and how would EM-SOS help us help their organization? And this is quite easy to address. While every client has some standards, it depends upon how many standards they have, whether they're up to date, are they in a printed format, or are they in a electronic format such as Word and Excel. What we can then start to do is look at them and reference if these standards are applicable, and if so, leverage them on our SharePoint platform. We'll then develop a unique enterprise standards framework, and it's important to note that if you have standards and you believe you want to incorporate them into our framework, we can help jumpstart this program. Another question we get is, we're interested in establishing a data governance program. How can EM-SOS 2.0 help? We hope that you've seen the approach of standards automation, data definitions, consistency of names and elements. All these are fundamental elements that you need as a foundation for a complete data governance program. We provide all the critical elements in EM-SOS 2.0. We jumpstart this effort. EM-SOS 2.0 is critical as a foundation for any data governance, data management program. We also get the following question, one of our favorites. The standards and best practices are important, but they've been a low priority. How can we justify spending money on EM-SOS 2.0? We turn around and say you can easily justify EM-SOS 2.0 because it's going to cost you more money to have untrustworthy data moving throughout the organization, especially for organizations who may be doing mergers or have data quality programs or implementing data governance program. The cost of rework, the cost of not having interoperability, the cost of incorrect decision making because you can't trust your data. In the long run, these costs far exceed time, money, and effort it would take you to adopt and implement enterprise modeling set of standards 2.0 as your modeling framework. So in summary, the benefits that EM-SOS provides are clarity for data definitions, consistency of data, and reuse of data across the entire organization. EM-SOS is a critical and necessary foundation for a complete data governance and data management program, as EM-SOS 2.0 provides the necessary elements to build upon, such as the items we mentioned above. Of course, then there's the build versus buy decision that we talked about. As we have seen in EM-SOS 2.0, we provide a much faster, better, and cheaper solution than clients could build in-house. Not to mention, EM-SOS 2.0 is a tried and trusted approach that has been in the marketplace for many years. EM-SOS 2.0 is their most recent addition and has 20 plus years of modeling expertise that you can benefit from. So with that, I'd just like to open up. We've got a couple of minutes left for questions. And I do believe that on the panel there, we've got some questions. One of the first questions that come up is in regards to the workflow. And I believe, Jeff, you had mentioned this earlier on. Can the workflow be changed?
Yes, part of the workflow that I demonstrated was very much the out-the-box vanilla brand version of EM-SOS 2.0, but we can customize the workflow to your specific requirements and the particular way you want to deal with your model submission process. So like most of the standards and procedures, we've got the starting block, which is giving you the basic framework to start with, but we try and customize all of it to suit your requirements. So that's down from the actual standard, the procedure, and then right into the actual workflow that actually drives the process. So it's all customizable.
Great. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Marcy. I just want to add that, excuse me, the workflows, the diagram, the picture of the workflow that Jeff showed you matches the procedure that was written in EM-SOS for that particular procedure. So as you customize the procedures, that will necessitate changing the workflow to match whatever customization the procedures have. So those diagrams in the workflow match the procedures that are right for you that are written in EM-SOS that you've customized there.
Thanks, Marcy. Jeff, we had another question from one of our audience members. Question is there a link between EM-SOS and the templates? In other words, can we generate the template from EM-SOS? And if not, how would we do that?
Okay, they're not linked together per se. They are theoretically linked. So in other words, when you change something as far as a standard is concerned, you then implement that standard or the change of that standard in your OWIN templates manually. So we do not actually automate the process between the customization of the standard into the template. It's part of the procedure that you will follow to be able to push it in to the particular environment and to be able to allow you to be able to roll out that standard.
Thanks, Jeff. There's another question, and we've been through this several times with several clients. Marcy, you'll like this one. It says, does your check or your checks for definition only test for existence of text, but not qualify or quantify the definition? And this comes back to, how we, what's the definition of a definition and how do you validate that definition? And Marcy, you and I and our team had some discussions on that. This is one of the things that, we're getting better at doing. We're getting better at going in there and reviewing and quantifying. Like the definition of zip code just can't be zip code. It has to be a fuller sentence, things like that. So there are ways that we can provide reports and metrics to quantify how much of a definition is a good definition. Marcy, anything to add to that?
No, except that we do have, there is in the index data object definition guidelines. We supply a document that tells you what qualifies as a good definition. And these are the guidelines. This is the way we want you to write definitions. So we give you that as a starting place so that folks can understand how to write a good definition, and then you can see what they do when you run the reports.
Thanks, Marcy. And one of the questions that I'll take is, what is the recommendation if I'm not sure where to start? Obviously, one of the things that we do with clients is that every client has some form of standards. what we do is we start with an assessment, and this assessment is something that we can work with a client. If some clients tell us they've got no standards at all, and whatever we've got, they're going to take, and that's great. But some clients say, I have some standards, but I'm not sure how up to date are, how much you can leverage, things like that. So we do start from an assessment point of view. The assessment also then allows us to be able to help the organization figure out what we can use of the existing assessments, what of the existing standards and procedures, what's reusable, what we can provide as a framework going forward. So we definitely recommend that an assessment is where we start from if it's warranted within an organization.
Yeah, I'd like to add something.
Sure.
Oh, sorry, Rob. Realize you weren't done. I think the assessment is a wonderful way to kind of get a reality check and see what the gap analysis is between what you already have and what we know you need to bring your environment, excuse me, into an enterprise-wide standards environment, standards and procedures. So we evaluate your existing standards and/or procedures, if you have those, your data management goals, your critical success factors in terms of data management and so forth, and we look at all of your existing stuff. And from that, we can say, this is great, or this is okay, but you're missing this here. These are the ones that you're really missing, and so forth. So it's a very robust, very, very detailed assessment of not only the state of what you already have and what you're missing, but how it's being used or not used, for that matter, in the environment. We address things like whether or not you have standards but they're not being enforced, why is that, and so forth. So it's a very robust assessment that gives us all an idea of where we stand so that we can make some sense out of the chaos and bring some clarity to what you're going to have to do to get from where you are to where EM-SOS would bring you.
Great. Thanks, Marcy. That's about all we have time for the questions at the moment. There are a couple of questions that we will get back to one-on-one with everyone, but what we would like to do is thank everyone for their time. Marcy, Jeff, any last-minute comments?
I
think I'm good.
Enjoyed it, and has a good takeaway from the presentation.
Great. Well, listen, and again, there's some questions that are just coming in last minute. What we'll do is we'll reply privately to those emails. We will send everyone a link to this recording so you can share it with your organization. In the meantime, thank you very much indeed for giving us some of your time today, and good luck with the rest of the day. Thank you. Bye.